Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the ultimate 2,300-year-old playbook for human psychology and communication. I'm talking about Aristotle's Art of Rhetoric. Look, whether you're leading a team, pitching a massive project, or honestly just trying to win a debate at the dinner table, the foundations of how we actually convince each other, they haven't really changed since ancient Athens. Let's decode the master text. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly is rhetoric? Well, before Aristotle came along, persuasion was mostly taught by the sophists. And honestly, they kind of treated it as a collection of cheap tricks, just pure emotional manipulation. Even Plato called it a mere knack, like cooking rather than a true intellectual art. But Aristotle, he charted a completely different path. He didn't write a handbook for shady manipulation. Instead, he defined rhetoric as an ethical, systematic observation of how to truly connect with people. He didn't just see it as the act of persuading, but rather the underlying ability to, as he put it, observe the available means of persuasion in any given case. It's like seeing the matrix of human connection.
Part 1. Elevating the art of persuasion. We're going to start by looking at how Aristotle totally rebelled against the verbal trickery of his time to elevate persuasion into a true intellectual art form, a techne, as the Greeks called it.
Aristotle actually opened his whole treatise by calling rhetoric the exact counterpart to academic dialectic. What does that mean? Well, think of dialectic as being for small, highly trained audiences debating abstract universal truths in a classroom. Rhetoric, on the other hand, is for the public square. It's the bridge. It translates those complex truths into arguments that ordinary citizens can actually use to make practical, real-world decisions. Because, let's face it, if you drop a dense, scientific, perfectly logical dissertation on a massive assembly of people, you're going to lose them completely. Rhetoric bridges that gap. Moving on to Section 2, Ethos, Pathos, and Logos. Let's take a look at these artistic proofs and see how they build into what's basically the holy trinity of persuasion. You've probably heard these terms before, but seeing them defined by their actual originator is pretty powerful. Aristotle says you absolutely need all three to succeed. You need the logical proof of your words, that's logos. You need a profound understanding of the listener's feelings, that's pathos. And perhaps most fundamentally, you need your own credibility, which is ethos. Without one, the other two will literally collapse under the weight of an unconvinced audience. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. To establish true ethos, you can't just rely on your past reputation. Aristotle was adamant about this. Your speech itself must actively project three specific things right there in the moment. First, phronesis, or practical wisdom. You've got to sound intelligent and capable. Second, arete, moral virtue. You must appear honest so they know you won't mislead them. And third, eunoia, goodwill. You have to show that you genuinely care about the audience's best interests, not just your own. If you drop the ball on even one of these, your audience's trust is going to fracture. All right, Section 3, the three rhetorical arenas. So you've got your tools, but where do you actually use them? This breakdown right here is basically your ultimate cheat sheet. Aristotle categorized every single speech you will ever give into one of three specific arenas, and you've got to shift your entire strategy depending on the context. If you're advising a team on a future policy, well, you're in the deliberative genre, so your whole argument needs to focus on what is advantageous versus harmful. If you're judging a past action, like in a courtroom or, say, a performance review, you're using forensic rhetoric, aiming at justice. And if you're giving a toast or praising a present hero, you're in the epidictic genre, focused on the noble versus the base. Knowing your arena completely dictates your game plan. Which brings us to Section 4, Psychology of the Audience. The crucial takeaway here is that a perfectly logical argument will totally fail if you don't understand the human mind. Because humans aren't unfeeling calculators, right? Aristotle realized you just can't persuade without mastering the emotional landscape of the people sitting right across from you. And he didn't just list out emotions, he mapped their actual mechanics. This is literally the first systematic psychological analysis in Western literature. He explained that to understand an emotion, you have to look at the state of mind, the object of the feeling, and the trigger. Take anger, for example. People don't just get mad randomly. People feel anger when they're thwarted in a desire, like when they're sick or tired, and someone directs a conspicuous slight, like mockery, at them. By understanding this internal machinery, a speaker knows exactly how to soothe or stoke those feelings. And he also broke down the audience by demographics. Look at this contrast. It brilliantly illustrates how age completely dictates perspective. You simply can't persuade the optimistic, impulsive youth using the same arguments you'd use for the elderly. Young people inherently desire noble ideals because, well, they haven't been beaten down by life's failures yet. But older folks,
They tend to be a bit more cynical and cautious, prioritizing the useful over the noble out of self-preservation. It's a real game changer. You have to tailor your message to the lived experience of your listener. Finally, Section 5, Perfecting Style and Arrangement. We've hit Book 3, transitioning from what to say to exactly how to say it. You have the logic, you have the psychology, now you need the packaging. Aristotle insists that your style must, above all else, be crystal clear. Seriously, if language doesn't make your meaning immediately obvious, it fails its entire function. It also has to be emotionally appropriate to the topic. But here's the absolute secret sauce. Use beautiful, proportional metaphors to elevate your words, but always, always hide the art. Think of it as the rhetorical equivalent of the no-makeup makeup look. If you sound like you're trying too hard to be poetic or manipulative, the audience's guard goes right up. You've got to sound completely natural. And structurally, ditch the rambling, loose style. You know, those sentences that just run indefinitely with and then, and then, and then? It's tedious. It's like that one coworker's email that refuses to use periods. Instead, Aristotle says to speak in a periodic style. A periodic sentence is tightly structured. It has a clear beginning, middle, and an end that the listener can actually feel approaching. It makes them eagerly anticipate your conclusion, which makes the final delivery so much more satisfying. So how does this dictate your actual speech structure? Well, when you strip away all the fluff, Aristotle argues that at its bare minimum, a speech only truly requires two parts. You state your case, and then you logically prove it. That's the whole shebang. If you do absolutely nothing else, you must do those two things. But if you want to truly maximize your impact, you should expand into these 4 classic steps. First, the introduction, to hook their attention and make them well disposed to you. Second, the statement, where you lay out the facts clearly. Third, the proof, where you deliver your hard-hitting logical arguments. And fourth, the epilogue, wrapping it all up with a powerful conclusion. Let's zoom in on that epilogue for a second, because this is your final strike. Aristotle gave us 4 exact objectives for the closing of his speech. You use it to solidify their goodwill towards you. You amplify the stakes of your argument while minimizing your opponent's points. You trigger those target emotional chords, whether that's sparking pity, stirring anger, or inspiring hope. And finally, you briefly and clearly recap your winning points so they walk away remembering exactly what you said. To show, rather than just tell, how powerful a periodic ending can be, Aristotle famously ended his entire massive 3-book treatise with this incredibly sharp, perfectly structured mic drop sentence. Listen to this. I have spoken. You have heard. You have the facts. Judge. Boom. No fluff, just a brilliant rhythmic handover of power right back to the audience. So now that you hold the ancient playbook for human communication, understanding exactly how to build trust, map emotions, and structure your ideas with clarity, the ball is firmly in your court. The next time you step into a meeting, draft a crucial email, or sit down to resolve a conflict, how will you observe and use the available means of persuasion in your own life? Or better yet, how will you spot when someone is using them on you? Keep observing, keep refining, and we'll see you in the next explainer.
Please like and subscribe.